Welcome to In the Spotlight. I'm Eric Townell. My guest today is Erica Fee. She is festival producer for the Rochester Fringe Festival. Welcome, Erica. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
It's exciting to have you here.
It's exciting to be here.
Oh my goodness, Rochester has a Fringe Festival.
We do.
That's phenomenal.
It is.
And so, for those not in the know, what is a Fringe Festival?
Sure. So that's a great way to start.
Okay.
So in 1947, there were 8 groups who were not invited to participate in the new Edinburgh International Festival in Edinburgh, Scotland. And this was a curated theater festival, but in a post-war spirit, they decided to turn up in Edinburgh anyway, even though they weren't invited. And they just rocked up with their sets and their costumes and their props, and they put on shows above pubs and in lecture halls at the University of Edinburgh. And there was a reviewer who was trying to figure out, what do I call these shows that aren't part of the official guide? So he nicknamed them the Festival Fringe. But he also figured it could never happen 2 years running because people would never be that organized. And it was just an organic thing that happened. Well, it did happen, and it snowballed to become what is now the largest arts festival in the world. It occurs every August. Last year's Edinburgh Fringe had about 60,000 performances. It's the largest economic driver for a tourism event in the whole of the UK. They sold about 2 million tickets last year. It's absolutely incredible. And I produced, actually, at the Edinburgh Fringe. I had my own production company in London. I'm originally from Rochester, and I always thought, why doesn't Rochester have a Fringe? Now, the Edinburgh Fringe has resulted in the birth of about 200 Fringe festivals worldwide.
No kidding.
With about 50 in the United States.
Oh my, and are they typically in towns the size of Rochester, or?
There's a huge range, really. Within the United States, we are one of the biggest. We're one of the top 3 biggest, but the other very large fringes are Orlando Fringe, Hollywood, California has its own fringe, Philadelphia has a fringe, Minneapolis has a fringe. So I do think personally that Rochester's a perfect size for a fringe festival. Not too big so that it gets lost, not too small that we don't have enough accommodation for everyone, but there's a huge range.
Well, that was a staggering number of shows in Edinburgh. How many do we do stage here in Rochester?
We typically have about 500 performances. Oh my! So that's within a 10-day period.
10 days in
late September.
In late September. Oh, a perfect time of year. The weather is still good.
It is. Yes.
And so, if people go to the Fringe Festival, what are they likely to see?
So the Rochester Fringe Festival showcases everything from theater to comedy to music to dance to children's entertainment to multidisciplinary works that cannot even be classified into a single category. We also do some free outdoor spectacle entertainment to really draw people downtown. We have a huge range, so that we always say there's something for everyone.
So this is really a destination event for the city.
Absolutely, and we are finding that regionally it's becoming much more of a tourism driver. We are getting people from outside the Rochester area to attend Fringe.
Oh, that's terrific. Is this a national or international crowd, or what do you?
Well, right now we are a young festival. 2017 will be our 6th year.
6th year.
But we are seeing that we're drawing from throughout the state and throughout the Northeast now. Every year that we develop, we see that our reach goes further and further.
Oh, that's terrific. Now, are these locally produced shows, or bringing acts in from out of town, or?
It's actually a mix. So it's everything from, as we say, amateur to superstar.
Okay.
So yes, we do have local acts. We have a lot of college students. We have 6 higher ed partners. So U of R, RIT.
That's University of Rochester and Rochester Institute of Technology.
That's right. Thank you. SUNY Brockport, SUNY Geneseo.
I see.
St. John Fisher College and Nazareth College are our partners. They supply talent to the festival, fresh talent, which is great, fresh, young, new ideas. And they also supply audience members. But aside from those students as well, we have members of the local community. And of course, Rochester really is such an incubator for talent that we thought that people didn't really realize when we were starting the festival. How many groups there are here that they may have their base in Rochester. It's a great place to live, low cost of living, great place to find rehearsal space, but they tour nationally.
Like Garth Fagan Dance, for instance.
Absolutely, or Push Physical Theater. Both of those are great examples.
Now, are there shows that people buy tickets to, or are some free, or how does it work?
Out of the approximately 500 events we have each year, events and performances, well, some of them we have to call events because we don't know how to classify them any other way, to be quite honest. About a third have been typically free, and the rest have been ticketed. And all of those tickets can be purchased online in advance at rochesterfringe.com. But we also have the ability for people to purchase tickets, of course, on the day.
I see. And so with 500 events or acts going on, how do people find out what's going on? Is there a guide? Or?
Yes. In July every year, we announce the entire lineup. So we have a big press conference where everything is announced. And then at that point, we also put tickets on sale every year around mid-July. So checking the website is a great way to stay informed as to when we're going to be announcing. And then we also release a guide, too.
Oh, better give us that website again.
It's rochesterfringe.com.
Oh, okay, just like it sounds. Okay, that's interesting. And so you come from a production background yourself?
I do.
Have you been back to Edinburgh?
Well, it's funny you should ask. So this year, 2017, I'm actually going to be going to the Edinburgh Fringe with a group of, I can almost not believe this, but 19 of us from the Rochester Fringe. So apparently I'll be a tour guide for part of August, as well as producing. So somehow I'll be producing the festival from Edinburgh in August. But yes, I'll be going back this year. I haven't been back since I started the Rochester Fringe because this comes right on the heels. Rochester comes right on the heels of Edinburgh. But this year's a very special year for Edinburgh Fringe. It's actually the 70th anniversary of Fringe Festivals. So all Fringe Festivals in the world are trying to go back to the mothership.
To the mothership. That's fascinating.
Yes.
And now, do you come from a theater background yourself, or? Yeah,
actually, I graduated from the University of Rochester, and then I went on to London to train, classically train as an actor. I became an actor, and I was acting in London, and I got the bug for producing actually at the Edinburgh Fringe. I was in a show at the Edinburgh Fringe, which was a huge hit in 2001, and it was called I Am Star Trek. And it was a show about the life and times of Gene Roddenberry. It was a comedy, and there were 9 actors, and between us we played over 70 characters. So it was great fun, and it was a massive success at the Edinburgh Fringe. So I really got the bug for it then, and I started at that point to speak to the producers of that show, and I said, I have some ideas for some other shows. Would you be interested? And they actually were. And so they produced one of those shows, which was Durang Durang, which was a collection of Christopher Durang's short plays. It was actually the UK premiere of that show. And then I trained in commercial theatre production in London with the Society of London Theatres. I won an award. I believe I'm the only American to win this award. It was a Young Producers Award from the Society of London Theatre.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And I was paired with a mentor called Paul Elliott. Paul has produced about 45 shows in Toronto at this stage. He's produced on Broadway. He's produced in the West End. So he's pretty well known. So he took me under his wing. And then in 2009, I happened to be back in Rochester for a visit. And I was chatting with the head of the theater department for the University of Rochester, just catching up. And I said, why is it that Rochester doesn't have a Fringe Festival? Why do you think? Because I said, I think it would be a perfect location for it. And he said, it's funny you should ask. President Joel Seligman is working on this right now. You should go and meet with him. And I thought, well, I don't think I'll be getting a meeting with the president of the university in my week back. That's a very difficult meeting to achieve. But I did actually get that meeting. And he did have a group that had been working on this idea for about a year.
Oh, my.
So.
And this was in?
This was in 2009, summer of 2009. So I threw my hat into the ring, as you do sometimes. And I said, if you want a Fringe Festival, I want to come back and produce it.
Terrific.
And then I thought, what have I done? But anyway, they had me put together a proposal. And in December of 2009, I moved back to Rochester. and started working on the Fringe. And we, at that point, formed a steering committee that then became its own nonprofit corporation.
Oh, it's a nonprofit.
So we are a nonprofit. Unlike most festivals,
Yeah.
we are a nonprofit.
Interesting. So you have a board of directors.
We do. We have a working board of directors that has
Fantastic.
actually met every 2 weeks
My,
since about 2010. So
holy mackerel.
it's very different from most organizations, but everyone really gets very involved.
And so a lot of the shows are free. Is your board raising funds for this then?
Yes, we are. So we put on, the Rochester Fringe is very similar to the Philadelphia Fringe in that it's a bifurcated festival.
Bifurcated.
So that means it has two halves.
That's a University of Rochester
It's
word.
such a great word.
Yeah.
Try using it later today. But,
Okay, right.
the Edinburgh Fringe is slightly different, and then all the shows are curated by the venues themselves. There's
The venues themselves.
There's no central board deciding what goes where,
Interesting.
which is great, and that occurs at some other fringes. We decided that we would take part of that model, but also we would reflect what Philadelphia does, and that we would curate some ourselves, some of the bigger headline entertainment to really draw focus to the festival, to draw people downtown, to draw press. And we always joke that we're going to bring them downtown and then trap them downtown. So we'll bring them down for a huge show, and hopefully they then filter out to the venues, which they seem to do. That idea has actually worked.
Oh, that's good.
So we do some free outdoor entertainment, free spectacle entertainment that on the first weekend of the festival, it typically draws between about 10 to 13,000 people per performance.
Oh,
so in the past, we have brought in the group Bandaloop. They're aerial high-rise dancers.
Yes, fantastic.
Brought them in for the first 2 years, and Grounded Aerial. They were also aerial high-rise dancers. We brought in the group Circus Orange from Canada. That was a combination of acrobatics and pyrotechnics.
Oh my.
With a crane lifting a dancer up in the air above the crowd, 80 feet. We also brought in Elizabeth Streb and her company, Streb Extreme Action Company.
Yes.
With kind of death-defying dancing, yes, over at Parcel 5 downtown. And then in the future, we'll also be bringing in Plasticien Volant, which is a French company, and they focus on huge, giant inflatables.
Inflatables?
Yes.
Now, is there a central location that these performances happen, or?
So for the free outdoor spectacle, the last few years we've been using Parcel 5, which is the downtown area. Part of it used to be Midtown Plaza, right off of Main Street. It's a big flat area because nothing has been built upon it yet.
Right, for those out of the area, it was a shopping mall.
It was,
that has been demolished and now repurposed.
Right, absolutely. And in the future, something else will be built upon it. But right now, it's been great for us for the last couple of years. Our hub for the entire festival is across the street from the Eastman Theater. So that's where we put up a Spiegel tent, which is a imported Belgian music hall. An absolutely glamorous venue with stained glass, inlaid floors, and mirrors, because Spiegel means mirror. A mirror tent, really, and we do 10 days of entertainment over there, too.
And those are free and outdoor?
Those are, within the Spiegel tent, those are ticketed performances.
That's a ticketed performance.
But outside of the Spiegel tent, we do have what we call Spiegel Garden, which is an outdoor urban garden. We kind of call it our urban oasis. And so we even take turf and roll it down in the parking lot to create a lawn.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so we do outdoor movies, which are free, and other activities there.
And so people can migrate from there to other venues?
Absolutely,
And
yes.
what other kinds of venues are there?
So we have everything from Jiva Theater Center, which programs actually a combination of theater, music, and dance. They're also doing some visual arts over at Jiva this year. We have then even smaller venues. We have Muck, which is an old church over on
That's
Atlantic
the
Avenue.
multi-use community cultural center or
That's
something.
right. To the Eastman Theater, where we're putting on a show, to Bernunzio Uptown Music, to Blackfriars Theater. We have a huge range. The other exciting thing that we do is we also focus on site-specific theater. So while we have these traditional theaters, we also have some very non-traditional spaces. For example, Since 2013, we have put on a show called Dashboard Dramas, which is 4 parked cars. And you buy a ticket to the back seat. You sit in the back seat of the car and watch a short play that's about 10 minutes. The actor is either in the front seat, sometimes on the hood of the car, all around the car. And then 10 minutes in a car, then you move on to the next car, the third car, and the fourth car. Your entire experience is about 45 minutes. So we try to mix it up a bit. So our venues are everything from the very grand traditional spaces to others that one might never consider to be a venue until they attend.
Such as Christ Church downtown. Or,
That's right. We have had shows at Christ Church. We had a wonderful multidisciplinary show there a few years ago, which was a combination of improvised organ music, improvised dance, and improvised projection.
Oh my, oh my.
Yeah.
So all this sounds very cutting edge. Is this what is entailed in the word fringe, or is it, avant-garde? Is that what fringe is, or?
Fringe is not just avant-garde, and also we say one person's edgy is another person's typical, another person's boring almost. We have something for everyone. So fringe can be everything from Shakespeare to the latest cutting-edge multidisciplinary work. It's a huge range.
That's terrific. Now, how do I find out what to go do next?
So at rochesterfringe.com, we have all of the details. We even have a schedule on rochesterfringe.com where you can pick your date and figure out your time, when you're available, and figure out which shows are going on at that time.
Yeah, because with 500 shows in 2 weeks, they must go on pretty much all day.
They do, and especially on the weekends. We have typically had about 75 performances on our Saturdays at various venues, but it really creates such a wonderful energy downtown, and it's just a fantastic atmosphere, even on the street, people walking from venue to venue.
And have you had good support from the city and merchants and that sort of thing?
Yes, absolutely. We absolutely have. And we feel that a rising tide lifts all boats, so we can move up the ladder together. And we really, one of the reasons that we hold this festival is also for downtown rejuvenation, because we want people to get used to coming downtown and seeing something new and having a lot of fun.
Oh, that's right. And so do you have headliners that you bring in, or what should people watch for? What kind of acts are those?
Right, so the free outdoor spectacle entertainment is definitely something that we consider a headliner. That happens typically on the first Friday and first Saturday of the festival every year.
I see.
We also tend to bring in a comedian to Eastman Theater, to Kodak Hall at Eastman Theater. And in the past, we've brought in Patton Oswalt, we've brought in Mark Maron, Dave Barry, Jay Farrow, and this year John Mulaney with his hit tour. So we always try to bring in someone who is very exciting for that comedy show. We also have shows that occur in the Spiegel tent, and we have a nightly circus show that goes on there, which we consider a headliner. We even do in that Spiegel tent something called a silent disco. I don't know if you've ever been to silent disco.
I have to add that to the list.
It's great. It's absolutely fantastic. It's on the Friday and Saturday of the festival every year, so it happens 4 times. And I have to tell you, the first time I went to a silent disco was actually at the Edinburgh Fringe. And I walked into the room, and I saw this group of people dancing to what seemed like nothing. And I thought, this is going to be the worst night of my life. And then I was given a pair of headphones, and I slipped them on, and suddenly it all became clear, and I thought, this is going to be the best night of my life. What's fun about silent disco is we have 3 DJs. And they're almost dueling DJs, and on your headphones you have 3 different channels, so you can swap between the 3 DJs. So you'll have some people in the crowd dancing to one song, some dancing to another, some dancing to a third. And once you flip between the channels, you can figure out who is dancing to what. But you could have a group of people, and some are dancing the YMCA, and others are doing something that's very top 40 from today. So It's a good time.
That's great. Now, with all that dancing, there must be food also.
There is. Yes,
Food.
we tried to bring in Rochester's best food trucks.
Oh.
So we have food trucks nightly outside the Spiegel tent in the Spiegel Garden. And then, of course, when we do those outdoor free spectacular shows, we have many more food trucks.
Oh, that's
Try
good.
to keep everyone fed and watered.
And the wineries and microbreweries, are they involved?
Yes. We actually this year will be expanding into having a wine and beer tasting this year for the first time ever. But yes, we actually partner with several Finger Lakes wineries, and that's a really fun part of our job because we get to curate the wine ourselves.
That's true. So with 500 events to produce in that short amount of time, do you have a staff?
Yes, we absolutely have a staff. We range from about 10 people in our off season, and that's from full-time staff like me to contractors and part-timers as well, not 10 full-time. And then we gear up to, during the festival, about 140.
Oh my.
Yeah,
Oh,
plus about 140 more volunteers.
Oh, volunteers, so people could volunteer to work the Fringe.
Absolutely, and volunteering for the Fringe gets you a free ticket to a headline show. So
very nice. And
great time.
Any T-shirts or anything?
Absolutely, you get a T-shirt. Yeah, that goes without saying.
Well, you know, the college relationships are nice because there are a lot of interns.
Yes.
Do you have interns also?
We do. We have interns from all of our higher ed institutions.
And how do people find you if they want to do that?
On our RochesterFringe.com website, if they wanted to contact us, there's a contact us, and they can get in touch that way.
I see. Now, is there a printed guide also? Or?
Yes, there is a printed guide. We print and publish, if you would believe it, 175,000 copies, which are distributed throughout Western New York.
Oh my.
Every year, I take an extra stack and put them in my basement for the next year for future reference. And I have to say that stack is whittling down. I have hardly any left.
Nice.
But yes, we distribute them through the local papers, on the campuses of our higher ed institutions, at all of our venues, in coffee shops, and also in Buffalo too, in the paper.
That's terrific. So if I'm a local business and I want to get involved, can I advertise in there?
Yes, absolutely. At RochesterFringe.com, we have the details about how to advertise, how to become a sponsor, how to get involved.
Oh, that's phenomenal. And so now people might say, okay, I'm from out of town. I really don't know, you know, downtown Rochester. Is there parking? You know, where do people park, et cetera?
Well, on our website as well, we also have a map that identifies where to park, where to stay, where to get food. And so really what's up to you is to try to figure out your schedule, what you want to see. Luckily, there's various filters on the website. You could filter only music, you could filter only comedy, you could filter just by the date that you're in town, you could filter only by the venue. There are different choices, different ways to filter. But I do feel that also getting your hands on a paper guide is also a great way to figure out your schedule. It is, with that many shows, it's great to have that physical copy to be able to look through and circle what you're interested in.
And browse a little and decide what you'd like to see next. That's a fun experience. So how does this fit into the festival season in Rochester? You know, once we start in April, it is pretty much festivals straight through, but that sounds like it's a good fit.
It is a good fit. We're right at the end of the festival season, so it's a good bookend, and it's also a great time because many of the professional organizations in town are beginning their season. So it's a great way to launch into their seasons too.
I see.
So we picked, we tried to be strategic when we picked our dates. It is difficult in Rochester to find a time period when there isn't a major festival going on, but also we wanted to find a time period where students could be involved, where they would be back at school. We did feel that April and May wouldn't be a great time for us because their heads are in finals and graduation, and of course the weather can still be dicey. The summer, the students won't be here, and we do have plenty of other festivals on offer. So we thought that September would be a good time for us, and it's worked out well.
And how about the Eastman School of Music? You mentioned a couple of venues there. Are their students involved?
Yes, they absolutely are, and their students perform not just at the Eastman School venues, but there's a free application that occurs in April of every year, also at RochesterFringe.com. And anyone who wants to perform in the Fringe can fill out the application and then check off the venues that they would be interested in performing at, and that application goes on through to the venues.
Oh my.
Then the venues get in touch. So an Eastman Eastman student could presumably fill out an application and perform at Jiva even if the student wanted to.
Right.
And if Jiva wanted to accept the show.
And so Jiva, the theater center, can basically advertise their own series.
That's right.
As part of the Fringe Festival. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And now, did you have support from the Edinburgh producers as you put this together, and does that continue?
Well, we are a member of the U.S. Association of Fringe Festivals.
There's an association.
There is an association.
Okay,
we get together every November, at which point we're all totally exhausted, and we share our war stories, which is a good time. But we also share our best practices, and there's a mentorship program through that organization that helps new festivals start up, and also allows some of the older festivals to share new ideas. So through that U.S. Association of Fringe Festivals, we're a member of something called World Fringe, which is all the fringes in the world, and there's conferences for both.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And have you had the chance to engender other programs in other cities yourself, or?
We have attended the conferences, and we have attended other festivals, including Orlando Fringe, Philadelphia Fringe, obviously Edinburgh Fringe, Brighton, England. But we also get the question every year of, do you think that you might start a Fringe festival in another city now? And we say, we're just too tired.
But people must come to you for advice.
They do come to us for advice, absolutely. But we don't ourselves start the festival somewhere else. But we have helped Ithaca Fringe, which is our closest to the Rochester area.
I see.
And others when they've had questions. And it's great to share best practices with the other festivals.
Oh yeah, and do they happen typically at the same time of year in the other cities, or is there a given time of year for Fringe festivals?
No, there isn't, and there's a huge range as to when they happen. Most happen between April and probably October. It also depends on the city where it's located and what its weather will be like.
Oh, yeah.
So Asheville, North Carolina, they hold their Fringe at the end of January. They're one of the few winter fringes within the United States, but Asheville weather in January is obviously very different from Rochester weather in January, so they can pull it off. Orlando Fringes in May. So some of the warmer cities don't hold their Fringe festivals in the middle of the summer, but when it's a temperate time for them.
How very exciting. So if you're following online, does the Fringe Festival have a web presence? Do you stream events or that kind of thing? Or
we are very active on social media. Sometimes we do stream events. We have even streamed silent disco. Just parts of it. And yes, so we do have a great presence on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So
people can find you there.
It's a wonderful way to follow us there and keep up to date with what's going on.
Oh, that is phenomenal. Well, it's a very exciting movement. And so what do you expect in years to come? How will the Fringe grow in the next 5 years, or what do you see in the future?
We really hope to become much more of a regional festival, and so we're looking to expand our reach further and further. We're not looking to necessarily expand our footprint throughout the city. We want to keep our core tight and around the Eastman Theater in the area downtown. We have a commitment to downtown.
Great.
But we feel that we want to grow our audience before we grow the amount of shows. So we try to keep some control over that in a festival that has almost no control over the venue. So that's also a challenge too. It's a bit of a balancing act.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming into the spotlight. It's wonderful to meet you and to get to know a little bit more about the Fringe Festival.
Thank you.
Thanks. My guest has been Erica Fee. She is festival producer for the Rochester Fringe Festival. And just give us that web address one more time.
It's www.rochesterfringe.com.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.